A Dragonlance media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Dragonlance Media bringing you the last book review of the year. So cheers, and I hope you all had a happy Christmas and all the best for the new year. From the Dragonlance Media crew. Now today, I'm looking at an old Dragonlance novel. This is Lord Soth. This is book 6 in the Warriors series of Dragonlance novels that looked at heroes of the Dragonlance kind of saga. We had, I believe it was Knight of the Crown, Marquesta Carthon, Knight of the Sword, Theros Ironfield, which I actually have up there. Knight of the Rose, Lord Soth, and then a 7th book in the series that are not connected in any way, shape, or form. Now, Lord Soth is one of the most interesting villains, not just in Dragonlance, but in Dungeons & Dragons in general. And the reason I actually read this book to be reviewed was because he features prominently in the latest Dungeons & Dragons campaign, Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen. You can even see his visage on the front of the book. This is actually going to be a spoiler-filled review. So if you don't want to know anything about Lord Soth, go and check out one of our other videos. But yeah, straight off the bat, Ido van Belkom has written an absolutely fantastic retelling of Lord Soth's story. Intriguing, a few twists and turns, although to be fair, going into this, I knew the backstory of the character, so it wasn't much of a surprise. But with that said, let's jump into the next episode of There's a lot to break down in this, so you're going to have to bear with me here. But the book starts with a scribe who works for Astinus of Palanthus. Astinus, of course, being the librarian in the city of Palanthus, who is recording all of history. And this scribe believes that he has written the definitive history of the Death Knight, Lord Soth. It kind of begins with a letter to Astinus, and this scribe basically recounts the difficulties that he had, and that maybe some of the other stories about Lord Soth aren't true. So it opens with Lord Soth, his right-hand man, his seneschal, Caradoc, going to a tavern and luring out a bard that he ultimately ends up killing. He then rides to a small village where there is a half-elven woman that he ends up killing. So it starts with 2 murders. He travels to a small cabin where Lord Soth, Lauren Soth, as he is known, is with his father, and we find out that the point of these murders is that his father is going to pass on leadership of Dargard Keep, which is the main keep in the realm of Nightland in Solemnia, to his son, and he doesn't want any of his bastard children to be able to claim ownership of it. So we find out immediately that Lord Soth has had these 2 people murdered because they could be, how do I say it? They could be a threat to his overall leadership of Nightland. Lord Soth is due to be wed to the Lady Corinne from Palanthus, and it's a lavish wedding. Everyone attends, and you know, it's just one of those kind of, he's this well-respected knight. He's just become a Knight of the Rose. Those of you that aren't familiar with Dragonlance know that the Knights of Solamnia have 3 tiers: the Knights of the Crown, Knights of the Sword, and the Knights of the Rose. And Lord Soth has just become a Knight of the Rose. Very prestigious. After the wedding, he and Lady Corinne have tried to conceive a child. He gets called away on a mission to free a village of some ogres. As he's leaving, the Lady Corinne kind of hints that maybe she is with child, but when he returns from the quest, sadly, she is not. This happens for a long, long time. Eventually, the Lady Corinne and her lady-in-waiting, I should say, Mirel, visit a hedge witch who grants her the power to have a child, but it is tied to Lord Soth himself. Whether or not this is successful is based upon how knightly Lord Soth is, but we know from the opening sequence that there is a dark side to him. The sins of the father come down onto the son. The Knights of Solamnia call a meeting in Palanthas, and Lord Soth is charged to head there. He is a Knight of the Rose, of course, but along the way, he and his 13 retainers, the 13 knights that are the most loyal to him, they come across some ogres that have captured some elf maidens that are due to go to Palanthas to become priestesses of Mashakal. She is the goddess of healing. Now, at this time, we are getting like intermittent chapters of the king priest of Istar, who believes himself above mortals and demands to be made a god. And any of you that are familiar with the lore of Dragonlance will know that the king priest of Istar caused what is known as the Cataclysm, where the gods hurled a fiery mountain down on the city, decimating the world of Kryn, all because the king priest thought he was better than they were. On the way to this nightly meeting in Palanthas, they come across these elf maidens in trouble, and Lord Soth rescues an elf maid that has been captured by the ogres, an elf maid by the name of Isolde. He becomes smitten with her and decides that she's more badly wounded than she actually is, so he takes her back to his keep, Dargard Keep, which we find out early on in the novel has been constructed of a pinkish granite stone in the shape of a rose, keeping in tradition with the Knights of Solamnia, with the rose and all that kind of fucking bullshit, but whatever. So he takes her back to the keep. In the meantime, his wife, Lady Corinne, has discovered that she is with child. Lord Soth kind of keeps Isolde there, and he basically makes the healer of the keep, who realizes that Lady Isolde is not as wounded as he makes out to be. He goes along with this ploy. So Lady Corinne is with child, Isolde is there. Lady Corinne kind of suspects, but she knows that Lord Soth is highly regarded among the Knights of Solamnia and would never do anything to go against that. So she finally gives birth. We find out that as she's giving birth, Lord Soth has, well, fucked Isolde. He goes in to see his son, and as per the hedge witch's curse, the son is grossly deformed. And Lord Soth flies into a rage at this and ends up killing his wife and his newborn son, and gets the healer to kind of cover it up, so to speak. He waits the requisite 6 months after his wife's death and ends up marrying Isolde, and she falls pregnant with his child. The king priest at this point, the king priest of Istar, is kind of going crazy and demanding stuff from the gods. The gods are getting angrier and angrier. Lord Soth is dallying around Isolde's lady-in-waiting, Lady Myrrel, who was the lady-in-waiting to Corinne, reveals to Isolde that people have been talking and kind of know that perhaps Soth had killed his wife and child, and Isolde banishes her from Dargard Keep. She goes back to Palanthas, where she meets with Lady Crin's mother, and Lady Crin's mother gets her a meeting with the head of the Order of the Knights of Solamnia, who hears her story and calls Soth to Palanthas under the pretense of something else, but in actual fact, it's because he's going to be put on trial for the murder of his wife and child. He gets to Palanthas, realizes exactly what has happened, and is put on trial. At this point, his knights that have ridden with him hear that he's going to be executed because he's found guilty of their murder, and decide to set him free and head back to Dargard Keep. All the while, the king priest is doing his shit and basically pissing off the gods. The rescue takes place. The knights ride back to while the gods are getting angry and angry at the king priest, and the beginnings of the cataclysm are actually happening. He's back at the keep, and he'd been chased down by some knights of Solamnia, but he and the knights have kind of made it. And he talks to his wife. They're kind of living in exile at the moment. His wife is praying to Mashakal how to redeem Lord Soth. And Mashakal tells her Lord Soth needs to go to Ishtar and kill the king priest. He's going to die, but he will be resurrected and fight the king priest again. He will die, but be resurrected until he is powerful enough to kill the king priest, in which time he will actually die. Isolde tells Soth this. Soth believes. He also gets word from Paladine, the god of good. And so he decides to go on this quest to stop the cataclysm. He heads out with his knights to on this quest to stop the cataclysm. On the way, they meet some elf maidens who start to goad Lord Soth and tell Lord Soth that Isolde is a slut, that their child is not his, and that she sent him on this quest so he could die, so she could just pretty much fuck everyone in the castle. He flips the fuck out. He kills these elf maids, and they dissolve into spirits. The knights that are with him are like, this is a trick. You don't have to fall for it. But Lord Soth is like, no, fuck this shit. And he rides back to Dargard Keep. The knights follow. And as they follow, the cataclysm happens. And the gods basically hurl fiery death down upon Crin. Soth gets back to Dargard Keep. Doesn't believe anything Isolde is saying. And in their argument, a fiery rock hits the castle, and a chandelier falls down and kills her. And as she's dying, she tries to hand their newborn son to him, and he declines it. So the elf maid and their half-elf son are basically burned to death, and she curses him that he must live a life for every life that his actions have taken, which with the cataclysm is a lot of fucking people. He basically ends up just sitting on his throne as the world burns around him. His knights are forced back, the knights that went with him are forced back into the keep and die alongside Lord Soth, who is then resurrected as a Death Knight, and his 13 retainers are resurrected with him as well as undead. And Dargard Keep becomes, it blackens where it was once like a pinkish hue with the granite is now black, and he becomes the Knight of the Black Rose. And that is the origin of Lord Soth, as told in this book. Lord Soth will go on to become a fantastic character. He is mentioned briefly in the Chronicles. He features a more prominent role in the Legends trilogy, and he is ultimately killed in the final Dragonlance trilogy by Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman. He is a prominent character in the latest Dungeons and Dragons campaign, Shadow of the Dragon Queen. He briefly went to Ravenloft in Knight of the Black Rose, the novel Knight of the Black Rose, and Spectre of the Black Rose. There was a Ravenloft adventure that featured him prominently. I think it was called When the Black Rose Blooms, but I could be wrong about that. And his domain was called Sithicus. He was obsessed with Kitiara Uthmata, Caramon and Raistlon's half-sister. And that features prominently in the Ravenloft kind of side story. I believe that the original authors of Dragonlance were not happy that that the character was transported to Ravenloft, and they kind of brought him back and explained it all. It's a bit iffy, but all in all, just an absolutely fantastic villain, very tragic character. This book is amazing, and I highly recommend any fans of Dragonlance and any fans of Lord Soth to read it. It's an amazing read, and Ido van Belkom did a fantastic job fleshing out the character. The cover, of course, is brilliant. That looks like an Easley cover to me, a Jeff Easley cover, but I can't be too sure. Let me... Cover art by Jeff Easley. Yes, I was correct. It's a Jeff Easley cover. A fantastic artist from the early Dungeons & Dragons era. So that is Dragonlance, Lord Soth, Warriors, Volume 6. I have not read any of the others, but I do have Theros Ironfield here to read in the new year. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notification bell so you will be notified. But most importantly, it's New Year's Eve, people, so have a drink, have fun, stay safe, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, but most importantly, next year, read a fucking book, people.